Hello again, Tier 3. We are just waiting on Jontris to join, and then I will begin. That way they can blame you when it takes a while. Okay, well, I'm gonna start talking. Awesome. So, as you guys remember, and that's a perfect segue into this conversation, I asked, after the midway point of this map, what the fuck happened? Because we had two shields, and our squishies constantly died on this first defense, and I don't understand it. So, watching it back, I understand it clearer, and the answer is, you guys aren't playing around the shields. That's a great spray go. It would be a shame if your head got capped in a second. Right there, you see that? Bad. Use your shields. Awesome, and that is another great segue, Rag. Thank you for your contribution to this point. Let me back that up. Are you not in here yet, Jontris? I'm sorry. Alright, Rag. So at first, you're also using the shield, and then you see the Widow and you say, she's not gonna hit this shot. Okay. So, at least in your case, the Widow grappled. However, that's just going to be something that you guys have to think about, right? Whenever you go up against DPS like this that have one-shot combos, or just heroes in general, because, you know, Hog's not a DPS, but he also has a one-shot combo, but you need to start thinking about their team comp and what they can do against you, right? And how that affects your positioning and how you play. If they have double sniper, you need to be very careful, right? You need to be taking sight lines that are safe, whether that's behind your shield or, you know, kind of off to the side, and, you know, be very, very careful with how you're peeking, especially as a Junkrat. You don't have to look at your enemies to kill them. That's the beauty of Junkrat. So, you know, I know that you were behind the shield, right, but you also need to think about, you know, okay, this is Widow. Right now she's playing on the bottom, but she obviously has grapple. They just came out of spawn. You know, I should be prepared for a grapple shot. Everyone should be thinking about this. In this case, our DPS did not, but my squishies, it could be any one of you. Yep. Yes, and yeah, and Widow's hard for a lot of tier 3 players because, you know, she does require you to play differently, you know, than you normally would. Um, but I mean, whenever it's to the point where we're just kind of standing still for her, you know, like there's little excuse. Like we gave them that point straight up. Okay, going into second point. My fucking controller is so slow, I hate it. Okay, so she uses walls. Everyone should be scared. I know Rag's scared right now because he's sitting in that corner a little too far up, right? Alright, second thing I'll say. Again, playing against someone like Widow, not only do you need to think about, you know, grapples and sightlines and everything, but part of doing that is thinking about, okay, what are her best sightlines in this map? If I was Widow, or even if you don't play Widow, I've played against, you know, so many Widows that, you know, you just like, after a while, you just start to understand like the common Widow spots, right? So on this point, clearly, A would be somewhere main, typically up top, sometimes on the bottom, but top is a pretty safe bet. And also this left side, right? Widows typically do that as well. So especially when she has walls, but not just that, you just need to be thinking about it, about the common sight lines, and be prepared for her to be there, so you know how to disengage and get away from that. I know that you're trying to get out rag because you're a little too far up, but if you have the balls to play a flyer against double sniper, you need to have the brains to be able to play in and out of their sight lines, and just flying up without a care in the world is going to get you killed. And just like that, you're dead. It's a good ante on Rhine. Mantis, I think it was a good try at the ult, right? To kind of, slow down their momentum. But, yeah, we, here, in case we missed it. Hanzo gets 3 picks! Now Hanzo has the unique capability, unlike Widow, to be able to get up in your face rather quickly. Like, I don't know if we didn't call him, or if no one reacted in time. But again, like, we're all sort of just kind of, we're almost in cover, but not quite, right? And I get that they're kind of walking through us, and you are a little frazzled. But when you're playing around these heroes, especially as a healer, like my healer players, you need to understand that you can't just stand out in the open like normal, right? You're gonna get shot. So, like, for instance, if your run's on point and you're playing Ana and there's a Widow back there, let's say you're playing on this side, like, you should be corner peeking, and healing your Rhine and going back into cover. Like, you guys should be peeking as little as possible. And that's your first defense. I'm sure some other mistakes were made there, but clearly the getting picked by the snipers was the most egregious of them, and I didn't have much to say after that. It's hard to salvage a fight when you're down 2 or 3 people at the beginning every time. Okay. Let me back it up. So we go dive, though, which is fine, as an answer to their double sniper. This fight's really interesting for me, and not in a good way. So, for me, if I'm playing dive here, and just in general, right, like, dive excels at getting close quickly and doing a lot of burst damage to a target, and then, just mowing through a team. It's weak against poke damage, which is why it can struggle against, like a double shield, even a sniper sort of comp if they can't get close, which is why you guys, are having trouble getting in right now, right? So you have a couple of options playing dive here, but your goal is to get to the snipers, most likely, which is fine because they're not really playing with their team, they're playing in the back with Mercy, right? So you have a couple of different options. One would be going all the way right side, like, sometimes you guys do in a brawl comp. D.Va should be able to help with, getting the slower squishies across, and that shouldn't be a huge deal. And then you can, take this high ground right here, and it's a pretty straight shot to the snipers, right? At this point, someone can drop down, like the tanks and touch point without using their cooldowns. And then maybe the enemy comes back, and then at that point you still have your cooldowns and you can jump up, right? Or you could just go and jump, their snipers to begin with, and maybe Sombra touches point, right? Or Reaper or something like that. So your issue here definitely is setup and your positioning. Because we dive once we go inside, but we dive when we're already sort of half health, meaning that your dive is doomed to fail from the start, which is super unfortunate, as at this point you're just wasting time. Second mistake is that you dive the tanks, and I feel and I know John we talked about this a little bit. Again, I feel like the thought process here is I don't know exactly how to get to the snipers, right? And so I'm just gonna dive the first thing I can, which happens to be the tanks. Um, but especially against Brawl, but just in general, dive does not want to deal with the front line first. Um, it's almost always a death sentence. Yeah. Now I will say, and I will say that we start doing something that's interesting, and it's kind of a hybrid of what you need to do, where we, like, Mantis will start going in on the front line and distracting them while we have other dives, which works, and that's fine, but it needs a couple of different things for it to work properly. But unfortunately, yeah, we dive the front line. We get out of mech for it. You know, Mantis, you did have the awareness to back up and realize the mistake, but we unfortunately weren't able to get everyone back fast enough, right? Okay, so what I do like about this, though, and this is why I also like going left, right? Is, you know, y'all can go up through left and y'all can kind of push them off of this high ground. But to do that, really, what I would do in the future is I would have someone touch point, right? Like I would have Sombra touch point, so their front line gets a little nervous and drops back. You don't typically, as a dive people, again, like I said, you don't typically want to dive the front line because they should fight that. I see a lot of these times that you guys kind of achieve the sort of goal you want, like, you know, you want high ground or you want the certain position, and you make the wrong decision, but it works anyway, and I fully believe it's because they're not making the right decisions either. Like, Hog and Ryan win that fight on you guys' tanks every time, and they just kind of backed up for no reason. So, I mean, that's awesome for you guys. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing in the future, right? Send someone to point, especially if you have a flanker, and then you can take that left side. Because I'm fine with you taking this left side, because then it gets Kirby onto this high ground, right? Which is really nice, because Kirby has a lot of natural cover here, and he can still, like, lay down discords and fire, you know, and stuff like he's doing now in the Hanzo. So I like that decision, too. Just make sure that we're doing it properly and not taking a lot of damage. Yeah. We're pretty split right now. We have mech back though, which is cool. I like that you went to focus the Widow up top, which is great, especially because you have the verticality to get up there, right? Jandris, I saw you try to go in after, to kind of help with that. And then from here, we kind of throw ourselves again into this room with the squishies. And I both like and dislike this. Okay, we push Mercy in. We realize Mercy's super weak. We're clearly calling that BAP's super weak, and so we go in. Here, a couple of things need to happen. Mantis, I'm fine with you taking the brunt of the aggression right now, right? You're taking, like, the frontline damage, you're trying to get in there and zap the supports, which is great because as Winston, you can get both of them at once and kill Immort. Winston's really good for that. I would say that probably, it depends on who's there. Typically, like, our Reaper would be better in that closed room, right? But if Sombra's in a closer position, that's also fine. As I mentioned when we originally watched this, Jandros, I wish that you, and maybe Goat, right, or just someone in general, I wish that y'all would notice this Hanzo on the back right that's kind of by himself, because I appreciate that you're trying to follow up with the main part of dive, but they have their cooldowns, right? Like, these are things that y'all have to be aware of, so if they have BAP, like, you need to understand that when y'all dive, whatever target you're focusing initially is not going to die like you think it's going to die, right? Because a good BAP is just going to place Immort and going to buy their team time. So in those instances, you need to realize, okay, BAP has Immort. you know, we're probably not going to kill him, you know, initially. You know, I need to make sure that I'm handling other things in the fight. And always in dive, y'all have to be, you know, of course aggressing on the low health targets and putting pressure on the enemy, but making sure, you know, some of us are still putting pressure in other areas, right? Like the same thing like that goat did here. You know, as like the rest of the team is kind of distracted, he went up and killed Widow, which was good because the Mercy had to choose and didn't end up saving them in time. Same thing here. Hanzo's put himself out of position, and he should be an easy target on you guys. We kind of just like ignore him and let him shoot us in the back for a while. So I think that could have been a little bit better. But you guys do make space here, right? We get the kills. We use Primal to kind of distract a little bit more in Valk, which was nice. So overall, I think it was a decent fight. Yeah, so this is fine. I know Regis died and Mantis goes back to change anyway. What I don't like what's happening right now is that some of us are obviously still kind of in and aggressing when we're down 2 people. So, especially with someone dead, but I assume that Mantis would have called that he's switching. If he didn't, he obviously needs to call that, but if we're calling that we're switching, like, you guys gotta get out. Fortunately, no one else dies, but it was really close, and that would have been bad. The other thing I'll start mentioning here is that I know that we have Zen ult, right? Which is fine, and I don't have a problem with running Zen here. But clean after you used Valk, especially with Mantis switching over to Rein. If he calls that, that should also be your cue that you should probably switch, right? You know, to any sort of actual main healer. Because running a Rein instantly means that you need a lot more healing than Mercy Zen can provide. It's a good combo. Okay. Also, Kirby, I want to mention, since you're the one that, okay, I just went past you for no reason. Okay, you didn't need to die here, right? Like, especially when they have flankers, you want to put yourself between... You want to put yourself, you want to put your team between you and the enemy, right? Honestly, the best place for you would be in the back a little bit more, and you can still do the same thing that you're doing, but better, right? From this position, the only thing that you can really look at right now is going to be like this left side, which is what you try to do, right? Like you try to kind of, you know, get someone as they're coming out of the door. Unfortunately, it's Reaper, and you don't quite kill him, and then he just, you know, he just destroys you because he's Reaper and you're a Zen in his face. When in reality, like, you should be, you know, back here, again, playing around natural cover, right, valuing your life. You can still shut down that left side, and if they come right side, you know, you can help them with that. You can throw down discords. You're still taking the pillars for natural cover. You know, if you get ballsy, you can come up on this high ground and have, you know, like, some good line of sights of everything. I definitely think you in particular need to value your life a little bit more, like we've talked about. Because, I mean, y'all dying here, like, 2 CP is so easy to stall. Any of you guys dying right here could potentially, you know, kill the push. And as a support, like, you should be dying last every time. Fortunately, Clean comes in with the res and a good Valk. Unfortunately, you know, you were resed in the same position and they just capitalized off of it. Good focus, though, on everything. I mean, everything's dying really quick. You guys are really, really solid with your decision making here, I think, or your willingness to just press triangle and just get a kill or two. You know. Okay. Alright, we're attacking again. Okay. First thing I'll say, same thing. We started off with Rhine Diva, Sombra Reaper, and we're running Zen and Mercy for some reason. I'm going to tell you guys this every time. I need you guys to make smart healer choices. It always comes down to the healers, and you know, maybe you guys know why better than me about why this is an issue. Maybe someone's not willing to switch, or maybe someone's not willing to call each other out, but this doesn't make sense. And I won't accept anyone arguing that this makes sense. In this instance, I think that the Mercy is probably unnecessary because she doesn't really have anything to pocket, right? You know, no hit scan or a bird or anything. So, again, if we wanted to run Zen, I would run Zen with Moira Bap on literally anything else. Lucio, of course, is always, you know, a great option. You could do Lucio Bap or Lucio Moira or Lucio Ana. But regardless, if you're going to have the off support, you should have a main support, especially if you have a Rhine. Period. Good DM, John Dros. And I also like, again, that you push them off of high ground. That's great. We get two really fantastic picks, fortunately. John Dros, we've talked about that. You've got a little too aggressive, right? Diva is much flimsier than she seems, and you never want to throw yourself into the enemy unless you were just, you know, cleaning up kills. Which they still had, what, 2 tanks and 2 DPS. Like, those are the 4 people that you don't want to be inside of. So, you know, just play a little bit careful and make sure that you're there to help your teammate. But great push. You know, we get those 2 perfect picks, honestly, at the beginning, and the discords were clean, and we just, you know, focus targets from there. So overall, it was still a good push. Just a couple of things that I have an issue with. Okay, unfortunate. So, Rag dies. I would back up, guys, especially since they just switched to Pharah, and I would soft regroup. I think the tanks are kind of feeding here. Yeah. Yeah, and like... And like we talked about, and I'll tell you guys this. I mean, so looking at your ult charge right now, like when Rag died and, you know, it's last minute, we're gonna start freaking out, we have to make something happen soon, right? We just lost a person, what do we do? Okay, first and foremost, if you still have, you know, 50 seconds left like you did, you have time, right? You need one definitive push. Do not go in without your last player, right? Unless it's like 20 seconds and you'll have to fucking touch. Second, look at your ults right now. You almost have every single ult. Your ult advantage right now is... well, it was really strong. And I know you said originally that y'all were really wanting to do EMP bomb here, right, like before. But I think that you guys completely overlooked that you had EMP shatter right soon, which is just as good of a combo because they have a fucking shield. You know, not to mention your support ult, you almost have Reaper ult, you know, etc. What I'll also make a note of, because I just noticed this, like, if you look at their ult charge at the beginning of this, like, y'all have the advantage, right? Like, I think so too. I think that like Rag died, right? And then we kind of stood there and fed. Like watch this Pharah. Like watch Pharah's ult charge especially. Like their healers get a lot too, but this Pharah just starts like railing into you guys because we're standing here. So before the fights even started, she went from 20 to 70, 75, 83, and you haven't even gotten in yet, 90. She built a barrage as you guys were regrouping. That's disgusting. That's a serious fucking issue. And we're still so weak because we're just taking constant damage to the face. Like, so we got no value out of just standing there. Like, literally what I want you guys to do there, and it doesn't need to be like, oh, regroup and spawn, we have to back up completely. You know, just go behind natural cover. Especially if you don't have long range, right? Like, if you don't have long range, you have your support ult, so like Kirby doesn't really need to spam anything here. Like, y'all just need to be focusing on getting into position. Sombra is coming back, but Sombra can start looking to get into position. You know, Reaper, yeah, you can play with the tanks, but you could also, you know, start thinking about, you know, like, okay, I'll do this, and then maybe I'll, you know, I see like they're on in the back. I'm gonna, you know, go and TP next to her and then start dealing with her. You know, this is your time to make a plan and sit back here without taking any damage and just come up with a plan. Come up with what ults you're gonna use. Talk about what ults they have and how you're gonna counter them. Talk about where you're gonna go. But it's so clear that like you guys are panicking and you just try to force like you just try to go main no matter what. It's a good trans Kirby. For sure. But we don't obviously push in with it because we're still kind of scared. So. Now look, they've used, what, 2 of their 6 ults. We have 5 ults. Yep. And then this is just not really thinking. It didn't look like we scouted where the enemy was. It looked like they spread out, right? Which is the issue with EMP bomb. If a team knows that you have EMP bomb, they're going to spread out. So I wouldn't necessarily start with that. It's better to do it maybe mid-fight sometimes. They had barrage. So I wouldn't even be thinking about bombing. I'd be thinking about eating that for my team. And then I would just do EMP Shatter, right? That's why, I mean, EMP goes with so many things. That's why it's awesome. It was a good effort on the Blossom and the Valk. Unfortunately, we die for the res, and from here, I mean, there's not really much we can do. We don't have the sustain, again, to keep up our tanks here. And we used every ult, and we got nothing for it. So. Okay. Playing Bastion Sim. Yeah, I was gonna say, so the only thing I could think of was in case they had Widow, someone could go up there. Which I suppose is okay. What I... Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is fine. But, what bothers me is that we do this. Um, like, we're playing Bastion, and especially with the Sim, because with the Sim, it means, like, Bastion shouldn't have to move, right? Unless he's literally going to die. So Bastion and Ryan really should just be fucking sitting here. You guys don't have to push them, right? especially because you've already killed both of their DPS. Now, I see that they're in, right? I understand that like you're wanting to clean up. I just don't want you guys to feed in here. So I mean, if Ryan and Rag, like you can push them out, and the Bastion was like still sitting here to catch them as they're leaving, that would be good, right? But instead, everyone goes to focus the same angle, and so they just need to like not peek that angle, right? Y'all can't all take the same off angle. But good kill on the Widow while they were distracted. And it looks like we're sitting back up, question mark. Again, go, I don't understand. We have a shield. I wish that you guys would meet each other in the middle. Awesome. And now we're back. Okay, this is the next thing I'll say. Bastion v Bastion, you guys are running a very similar comp. Bastion v Bastion, especially with the supports that you guys have, y'all win this fight. You're on defense, so you're already planted, right? You're already sitting down. Like, they have to still set up while you're already sitting and ready to shoot. So y'all absolutely 100% win this fight for a multitude of reasons. One, your Bastion should already be sitting. Two, your Mercy should be power boosting Bastion, which she is. 3, your Rhine should be shielding Bastion, which she, I think, mostly is. D.Va, helps prolong the shield's life, right? Because she can DM it and, save her Bastion and her Rhine and all that jazz. Whatever fucking else. We have Immor, to help and, whatever. We win this fight, period. We don't need to move. There's no reason to move. If y'all are gonna play Bastion Sim, you need to just be confident that you're disgusting people, and you just need to fucking, like, sit there and be gross, right? Especially on defense, like, if they're not touching point, and they're not doing anything to you, there's really no reason for you guys to move, right? It's like you see the enemy and you guys panic for no reason and then make stupid decisions. So, our Bastion got up for no reason and repositioned again. So we're losing a lot of damage on the front line that we shouldn't be losing. Then, obviously, Jandros, you panic and you fly at the Bastion. Again, I appreciate the thought. You don't need to lose your life for that, like we talked about before. You just sitting here and occasionally DMing like fire strikes, and if your shield gets low, DMing your team so they can, move or whatever. Like, that's all you need to do there. You don't gotta die for it. Second thing I'll say is, why the fuck are we running Sim if we're not using the teleporter? I don't understand this either. Like, the teleporter is fine. It's a defined spot, right? We sit here, we shoot. I mean, it'd probably be better if we were, like, here, right? And then TP was there, but whatever. And then we could just TP back, and then we all TP as a team, right? And then we're sitting here with Bastion and the shield, so when they try to touch point, we can just rain down hell on them. Instead, we give up our high ground for no reason. They literally just moved in. They haven't even made a decision on where they're going, by the way. They've literally done nothing to you. You're all fucking full health right now, except for, Jandros, who's technically out of mech. They're not doing anything. We literally give them this room and this space for absolute free. Not only that, but then we put ourselves in the back on the ground, which is like the worst place that you could be, because it just means that now they can TP on top of you, or like their Rhine can just randomly pen in and kill you, right? So the whole point of... Yeah, so exactly. So the whole point of running, like, the Sim especially, is that you'll have the mobility that Bastion normally doesn't to, like, be able to completely dominate these high grounds. Instead, they go up top, and Rhine comes in, and now we're distracted. Okay. We had to use, 3 ults for that? Okay. Which, I'm glad that y'all pressed triangle, right? And won the fight, which is good. The wall was good, the shatter was good. Go, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you over here? Thank you. Go back to your team. You need to be set up. You need to be set up before they get to choke. Make it hard for them to get through choke. And this shit, like, should not be happening. That Rein's shield should be broken. Why are we backing up? I'm so confused. Like, I can tell. I don't even have to look. I don't even have to look at where we are. I can literally tell because I'm watching their team and the damage they're taking and noticing that they're not taking any fucking damage. I don't know why we bitch out of these situations so fucking fast. And we're not even using our teleporter, by the way, to still retreat. We're literally like, we have a TP. We're like, nah, we don't need it. And so we get up and we walk all the way to the back of point for no fucking reason. Yep. So, I mean, this is just bad decision making. We're taking like the natural advantages of our comp and not utilizing them, and giving them advantages that they haven't earned. And so they're just able to, you know, kind of naturally aggress on us. Okay, same thing here. Notice how we've all come out of spawn and we're just kind of standing around like, what are we gonna do? If you have a Bastion comp, you need to know where you're sitting, and you need to sit. You need to prepare for it. You know, if it's gonna be on high ground here, so you have like some sight lines of this left side, fine. You know, if you're worried about that, like hold in the back of point or something. Like literally anything, but you guys need to be sitting down, and you need to be sitting down in front of your shield. And then, you know, you can spread out around your team. But clearly, like, if you're running a Bastion comp, this is the central, you know, sort of thing. Good kills. I'm glad that we had ults there. And, again, I didn't think the positioning was necessarily bad. Like, I'm fine that, like, Goat, if you don't necessarily want to always play behind the shield, that's fine. But we have to be making cohesive decisions together, particularly, like, when we use a teleporter, right? Like, the DPS have to be on the same page about when we're going, and to a certain extent, Rein, especially when it's Bastion v Bastion. I mean, we're lucky that, like, their Bastion also just kind of plopped down without a shield, you know, and that we thought to pressure him first. Because it's literally like, who punishes the other first wins. And if one of you guys has a shield and the other doesn't, like the other one's fucked, right? If they literally just shielded their Bastion there, they probably would have won that. So again, I don't think that y'all are making consistent plays because of your own merit. I think a lot of the time it's because the enemy's fucking up, you know, or you guys dump ults, right? And that's why y'all didn't win this, because you didn't make smart decisions with your positioning and your pathing and your ult usage. Do you have anything, Alejandro, or is that good for this one? Yep. Sure. Yeah, I mean, same thing with the dive. Like, a lot of those fights y'all pulled out, and you had, you know, you had decent ideas of like what you wanted to accomplish, but we just executed poorly at times, and that tends to be the pattern, right? Like we notice something's a problem, or we want to do something, but we don't exactly know how to accomplish it. But then no one says anything, and the first thing to fixing that is just talking. Even if you don't always know like the right answer, just say this person, like their soldier's bothering me, or like how do we, we need to dive this person, like how do we do that? And then people can jump in and say, okay, well let's try this way, or let's do this, or we have hit scans, so we should probably get our hit scan to high ground first, and then we can deal with this, and y'all just have to have those conversations. Okay, well, that is Anubis, and I will stop this one.